God is good. All the time. And all the time. God is good. Amen, my friends. A few announcements this morning, of course, as you can see on the screen behind me. First of all, we have prayer cards in the pews. If you have a prayer request, whether it's public, in other words, for us to place in our programs to pray for each other, or a private prayer request, in other words, for my eyes only, drop those off in the offering plate, which is, of course, located in the outer sanctuary. Also, if you're a guest today, we'd love for you to fill out a visitor card. Here's why. One, we can let you know what we're doing here at Mercy United Methodist Church, but also, two, that way we can tell you not only what we're doing, but why we do what we do. Also out there, you can find copies of today's sermon given by the Most High, Reverend Dick Carlson. You owe me a nickel for that one. Either way, they'll be out there today, also by the entranceway, as well as the giving statements for last year. There's still some there. So if you're giving statement, you haven't picked it up yet, please do so. That way, if nothing else, it's ready for your taxes. Experiencing God growth groups began last week. They'll be carrying on, as you can see with the screen soon behind me, with the different locations that are going on, including Tuesday night, Wednesday evening, Thursday afternoon, Thursday evening, and guess what? Thursday evening. 7 different groups in total are going on at this time. So if you're interested, there is still plenty of time. There are plenty of copies of Experiencing God also in the library, which is that room downstairs where the couches are at near the bookshelves, just as you entered in through the glass doors. Again, just get in touch with the church office or the folks who are the leaders of those groups if you'd like to go. Marvelous Mondays kicks off tomorrow night. I don't know if I'm ready, but we'll find out anyhow. 5:15, the kids will storm into the palace, which means probably earlier than 5. Eating will commence, which means you never know what form of eating habits you might experience that evening. What happens when all those kids get together terrifies me for how they can eat. Either way, that begins tomorrow night at 5:15 through 7 o'clock. All kids, 3 years of age through 6th grade, are welcome. Again, it's 5:15 to 7 o'clock. We're also looking for folks who'd be willing to volunteer to help make meals, or if that's something God's putting in your heart to work with our kids on Monday nights, talk with Sandra or I. Okay? Also, there's youth group tonight as well. It'll be at the, and I skipped that. Sorry, Alicia. Sorry, Bob. There will be youth group tonight at the parsonage because of the Steelers game. We have our priorities straight in order, so we'll have the game on. Or maybe our priorities aren't so good, but that'll be tonight, beginning at 6:30. Then, I still skipped right by the paper towel rolls, didn't I? Paper towel rolls. They're also looking for Marvelous Mondays for crafts. If you have any empty ones, paper towel rolls, bring them on in. There's a crate outside of Sandra's office to drop them off. She's looking for empty ones. But if you want to drop off full ones, go right ahead. You don't like, no, Sandra likes that idea. We'll move on. February 5th, during the Super Bowl, spelled S-U-P-E-R, which will occur that evening around 6:30, and hopefully, one of the teams that's playing today hopefully is there at the 6:30 game. We'll find out. Also that day, after the second service here at church, we will have our own Super Bowl, spelled as the way it is spelled, was spelled behind me. S-O-U-P-E-R. If y'all are new to the place, here's what it is. It is pretty much a soup competition. Whatever soup you think is best, you give a monetary donation for our missions, and that's where it goes. So if you're interested, show up that day, February 5th. If you like to throw your soup into the ring, details, of course, are in your programs or on the screen behind me. But again, that's February 5th. Well, you guys are just flying through there this morning. It's a new computer screen, if you're wondering, for us. It's the first Sunday we're playing with it, so if there are any glitches, just blame Media Shelf. Don't blame Bob and Alicia. You also found this in your bulletins. Thank you for those of you who filled one of these out. We have 4 that I found. The card is church words. Again, you have something you don't understand, words we throw around in church. Whenever the newsletter comes out, I quickly ran through the words I think that are insider trading information. For example, anybody know what a narthex is? Wonderful. What's a baptismal font? Those are just simple little words. But even more so, what about words that are hinted at here in the sheet or ones that you have yourself? So if you have any questions or any words, just drop this off. I'm not trying to find out who submitted it. It's more about the idea of how can we answer questions, because all too often we just assume people know what these words mean. We're not doing our job well. So again, if you you can't fill one of these out, drop it off in the offering plate, throw it in the office door, throw it underneath my office door, send it here in the mail, whatever works for you, Facebook message, or email the church, whatever works. Let us know what word or words you have questions about. We'll talk about those during Lent, which begins March 1st, Ash Wednesday. Finally, this morning, for our moment of recognition, we need to say thank you. So we'll make sure we say thank you. Hope Roberts, are you here this morning? I know you are. Oh, go ahead, Jeannie, keep pointing around. Hope you mind coming up. Good job. We're picking on you. All right. Everybody have your darts, tomatoes, rocks? Because they're not welcome right now. Hope just stepped down after, I don't want to call it tenuous, but difficult and taxing time on the Staff Parish Relations Committee, including 2 years as chair. Hope Roberts, Mercy-Land Methodist Church, thanks you for your years on the Staff Parish Relations team. You skillfully walked Mercy-Land Methodist Church through many difficult days. My addition, even stepping in whenever Shelley Carfolo suddenly was pregnant and things became more difficult in her household to continue to fill the role as staff or chairperson. Through many difficult days, making many staff transitions smooth. You demonstrate your giftedness by leading Mercy-Land Methodist Church through these difficult days with staff while helping find just the right new hires. You've been a great help to me personally while listening to your advice. And so we thank you. We thank God for your servant leadership, more so. Thank God for you. Guys of Jesus, Reverend Brian Keller, pastor in Mercy-Land Methodist Church. Hope, thank you. You guys want to thank you? Friends, let's prepare our hearts for worship. What a gift it is to have Peyton Miller here this morning. So during time of greeting lunch, make sure you make Susan, her mom, as well as Peyton welcome this morning. Friends, let's greet one another for the love of Christ.
Good morning back here. There was something there that shouldn't have been.
Friends, you want to go call worship, which you can find on the screen behind me. It's adapted from Psalm 67. Again, call worship can be found on the screen behind me. Oh God, be gracious to us and bless us, and make your face to shine upon us. Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. Let the nations be glad and sing for joy. For you judge the peoples with equity and have the nations on the earth. Let the peoples praise you, O God. Let all the peoples praise you. The earth has yielded its increase. God, our God, has blessed us. So, my friends, let's worship together. Amen. My friends, please be seated. And it's a special retreat today. It's time for a children's message led by St. Rogers.
favorite kind of cake? Me. What's your favorite kind? Me. What's your favorite kind? Vanilla. Vanilla. What's your favorite? Chocolate? Dad? Daddy, what's your favorite kind? Strawberry? Silas? Chocolate? Connor? Chocolate. Well, I don't have strawberry, but I might have some kind of like. What do you have to put in cake? What? Cake batter. Well, what's in the batter? Did you ever make a cake?
Yeah, I've done it a lot.
You've done it a lot. Are you a baker? Are you a baker?
No,
What do you have to put in cake?
I forget.
Anybody know? What might you have to put in? I have some ingredients here. What's this one?
Ooh, egg.
Egg.
I remember that.
Remember that? How about this? Huh?
Sugar.
This is not sugar.
Flour.
No, this is not salt. Salt. You might have to put salt. Not talking about not a cake mix, but a cake that you might have to put all the things from your kitchen in it. Anybody know what this might be?
Flour.
Flour.
That's what I meant.
And what's this called?
Cake batter.
This is not called cake. This is called, let me open it up. Can you smell it? Does it smell it? What's it smell like?
Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Center.
And this is another ingredient. Oil. Oil. Now, one time I made not a cake but a pumpkin pie. And guess what I left out? I left out the sugar. But it was Thanksgiving. Yeah, I think I know. And my grandsons to this day will not let me live it down. Grandma, remember the day you left the sugar out of the pie? Guess what it tastes? It's nasty. Yeah, it's nasty. If you don't put all the ingredients in, guess what it tastes like? Yeah, it does taste like that. Well, it's kind of like the church. We need all of you. When one of you is missing up here, those people out there, they get kind of sad. They like to see all of you up here. You are very important in God's eyes. Let me read to you from the Bible what it says. I'm going to read to you from Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him and who have been called according to his purpose. You have been called according to God's purpose. He wants all of you to be here. It's not the same when you are not here. He misses you. I miss you. Pastor Brian misses you. All of those people miss you when you're not here. God has called you for a purpose. Just like the cake recipe needs everything in it for the cake to be good, we miss you when you're not here too. Now, I did bring it. Can we have a prayer before I give you a treat? Let's close our eyes and pray. Dear God, thank you for these wonderful children that you love so much. We pray that you will bring them here every Sunday, and we pray for those that can't be here right now for one reason or another. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Now, what do you think I brought you? Cake. And sometimes I take sugar. I did bring a chocolate and I did bring a vanilla. You can take one of each if you want. I might leave the sugar out, but I did make these, so I'm sure they're pretty good. You can take one of each, or you can take two. I don't know what to take.
Friends, we want to give God thanks for this morning. What would you like to praise God for who God is, and what do we need to be praying about? Cindy.
I've enjoyed today. We're celebrating my dad's 90th birthday today.
What's that? Did you cut your say Rosie Simpson?
I don't know if you should celebrate that or not.
Sandy. If you didn't hear, Simon Yoder has been on our prayer list for a while. He passed away yesterday, so we're praying for you. Thanks, Sandy. Dale.
Oh, my checkup I had is just a little high blood pressure, but we're taking care of that. And then Terry, he didn't get to see either of his doctors because of the insurance being messed up the first time, and then him having lightheadedness. So he's going downhill fast.
Okay. So just be praying for Dale's brother Terry, who with lightheadedness and a multitude of other issues is struggling right now. And also be praying for Dale if he misses the blood pressure. Thanks, Dale. Linda.
Pray for the Woods family. They're members of the Whitechapel Church and neighbors of ours. Ron Woods passed away yesterday.
So pray for the Woods family as Ron Woods passed away yesterday. Okay, thanks, Linda. Marla, did I see your name?
Yes. Pray for my daughter Lindsay. She's studying for a clinical license test that's going to move her one step forward to her final goal of getting a doctorate in social work. So she's working really hard, and she's working about it.
So be praying for Lindsay because we're studying for her clinical license for her doctorate. Did I have that right? Thanks, Marla.
She's working toward her doctorate.
Working towards her
Clinical
doctorate.
license is the first step.
Thank you. At least you know what you're talking about. Thanks, Marla. David.
We need to pray for healing of our country.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. Thanks, David. Francis, is there anything else? Connie.
Leslie would like to say thank you to everyone who says prayers for Brooke and for Carlson. They do help. Brooke's been down in the children's again 2 weeks today. She doesn't want to show she's moving her home. And those prayers are just a big help to her.
So keep praying for Brooke Dales, who's still children's, little and Leslie and the family as well. All right. For a teenager whose life is pretty much being in children's hospital. So keep praying for her. Thanks, Colin. Friends, is there anything else you need to be praying for, or thank God for, or praise God for who God is? This morning, Tia and I did our devotions. So David, after your prayer request, it was from 1 Corinthians chapter 1 from today's readings, and I think it was verse 18. Please bear with me as I try to find it. First Corinthians chapter 1, beginning with verse 10. So friends, let us pray. I appeal to you, brothers, by the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, that all of you agree, and there be no dissensions among you, that you be united in the same mind and have the same judgment. For Christ did not send me to baptize, but to preach the gospel, not with eloquent wisdom, lest the cross of Christ be emptied of its power. For the word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. The word of the Lord, thanks be to God. Father, in the midst of what we watch on the news with disagreements, when we see it in conversations, when we watch it on Facebook and other social media platforms, when we see discussions or anger or frustration, or we even catch ourselves ridiculing someone we don't agree with, forgive us. Forgive us as a nation for how we do not seem to be able to disagree and still be agreeable. Forgive us, Father. For those of us in this room where we've made fun of vocally in a written form, or we've thought in our heads about someone else we disagree with, forgive us. I don't know everything. None of us does. Forgive us, Father. As we watch in the news, we see so much pain and agony. We have so far to go as people, and how to treat each other with kindness and love, even if we don't agree. Father, it also reminds us of how many people do not know your Son, Jesus Christ, or their hope is in a political party, or a president, or a movement, or their political stance. Forgive us, Father, for how we slide into that trap, thinking those things are greater than the cross of Jesus Christ. It is foolishness to anyone who doesn't believe. Open up our eyes to the reality, the wonder, the love, the fact that Jesus rose from the dead. That you, Father, are alive, moving, and active. That you are powerful. And if you have power over death, let alone our sins, and you are the God who can bring about forgiveness, let alone life now and life eternal. Forgive us for how we settle for second best. So, Father, help us. Heal our nation. Help us to converse with and listen to, let alone be able to talk with in an agreeable fashion as we disagree with. Father, help us that when others disagree with us, that we might still show them the kindness and the love like Jesus did. We're also asking, Father, to be with those who we've lifted up this morning who truly need your presence in their lives. We ask, Father, that you would be with Dale's brother Terry. We pray for healing on all the insurance issues. We look before you daily as well and pray, Father, for guidance and healing for the blood pressure. We look before you the Woods family and the Yoder family. And we're asking that you be with both families, Father, in the midst of agreement. Give them the comfort and peace that your Spirit brings. We ask, Father, to be with Lindsay. Give her wisdom and strength in the midst of her testing now. In the midst of this process for a doctor. Father, we look before you, Brooke Bales. We pray that you be with Brooke and Leslie and the family in the midst of these difficult days. And yet, Father, we've seen your hand at work. We thank you for how you brought about 90 years for Tucker and what a gift he is. We give you thanks. We thank you, Father, that we can meet here together. And even if we don't agree with everything that each of us believes, we can meet here together and show kindness and the love of Christ. We give you thanks for how you moved and worked in our lives. We're asking, Father, as well, that you be with Hunter Houston, who's a 3-year-old fighting leukemia in the midst of chemo and his isolation at this time. We pray that you be with him. It's pretty easy, Father, for us to focus on the minor things. When we hear 3-year-olds struggling with leukemia, when we see people in other countries who are being persecuted or killed for their faith in Christ, it reminds us there are much greater things for us to be fighting for than to be fighting with each other. So, Father, give us the love that your Holy Spirit gives. We ask for this in Jesus' name as we thank and praise you that you brought about love into our lives and that, Jesus, you model how love truly is. We thank you and praise you as we praise Jesus. Taught us to pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Amen. Friends, let's worship together. And so, friends, would you pray with me? Lord, open our hearts and minds by the power of the Holy Spirit, that as the Scriptures are read and your word proclaimed, we may hear with joy what you say to us today. Amen. Morning, Marla.
Good morning. This morning's scripture is from the New Testament, the book of Luke, chapter 9, verses 18 through 20 and 23 through 26. And it came to pass, as he was alone praying, his disciples were with him, and he asked them, saying, Who say the people that I am? They answering said, John Baptist, but some say Elias, and others say that one of the old prophets is risen again. He said unto them, But whom say ye that I am? Peter answering said, The Christ of God. And he said to them all, If any man will come after me, let him deny himself, and take up his cross daily, and follow me. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever will lose his life for my sake, the same shall save it. For what is a man's advantage if he gain the whole world, and lose himself, or be cast away? For whosoever shall be ashamed of me and of my words, of him shall the Son of Man be ashamed, when he shall come in his own glory, and in his Father's, and of the holy angels.
This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
In preparing today's message, I have to admit that I didn't do it on my own. I used a number of resources. The February Reader's Digest, Henry Blackaby's Experiencing God, and our Holy Bible. The questions of today: who do you say I am? Who is Jesus to you? You know, how we live our lives is largely dependent upon how we answer that question. Who do you say Jesus is? And in answering that question, what does that mean? What does Jesus mean to you? You know, sometimes it's easier to answer that question, or many other questions, if it's not personal. Jesus asked his disciples in the scripture today who the crowds said he was. So if we could be the crowds, who might the crowds say Jesus is? John the Baptist? Elijah? One of the ancient prophets? But when it came down to answering the question for themselves, we can almost imagine there was a pause. There was probably that quiet time. How do you answer that question? Who do you say I am? Had we been there, we might have experienced that time of silence. They knew he wasn't John the Baptist, because they knew John the Baptist. In fact, some of the followers of Jesus, it's believed, were followers of John the Baptist. They may not have been so sure about the other possibilities. Are you sure about reincarnation? Is it possible for us to be born again in another body? They probably weren't too sure of that because some folks in that time believed in reincarnation. Could it be possible that Jesus was Elijah? Or could he have been one of the prophets of another time? You know, it's remarkable that Peter answered the way he did. Peter's answer was right on target. He says, "You are the Christ of God, the promised one, the Messiah." Would we have answered that way? You know, it's remarkable that Peter, this uneducated fisherman, answered that way. You know, Luke has already written, if you have read through all of the book of Luke, about the meaning of the Messiah. Luke has connected Jesus not only with the line of King David's family, but also the one ushering in this new relationship with God and his creation. You know, for those of us participating in growth groups, we've been challenged through Blackaby's Experiencing God to try to understand who Jesus is to us. I have to admit, that's not easy. Who is Jesus to us individually? We've been challenged to understand what our understanding of Jesus means to us in our daily lives. And as we try to work through our uncertainties and our questions, Blackaby tells us we are to know God is asking us to change. As Jesus challenged his followers to change, each of us is being challenged. One of the stories that we're familiar with, Jesus was approached one day by a wealthy man who wanted to become one of his disciples. And Jesus told him to give away all of his wealth. Now, it's pretty obvious this guy had a lot of money. He was dressed in fine robes. He may have even had a couple of servants with him. He looked fine. He was clean. He wasn't like a beggar on the street. He had wealth. Jesus told him to give it away. Jesus knew that this man's wealth would hold him back from doing all that Jesus knew he could do. Jesus understood that we cannot follow more than one master. To follow Jesus, this rich man would need to cut ties that bound him to his wealth, and to cut ties with those things that money meant: position, influence, comforts. Some of us have things that are holding us back from following Jesus. Many of us have things or people that are restricting what we can do. We may be like that rich man. We may want the excitement of being a follower of Jesus, the satisfaction of being seen as one of his, but when it comes time to actually live it, we're challenged. We're challenged to choose. Will it be to follow Jesus if it means giving up what's important in our lives? Blackaby tells us that we can't stay where we are and go with God. We can't go with God in obedience if we don't change. We can't sit in the same place and follow Jesus. Most of us don't like Blackaby. Most of us think Blackaby makes us uncomfortable. But a lot of people don't like Jesus because Jesus makes us uncomfortable. But most of us are naturally self-centered. We want to please ourselves, to do what we want, when we want, and how we want. If any of you have ever served in the military, you know that basic training is not a fun time. How many of you served in the service? Well, we got a few of you out there who understand orders. You understand how difficult it is to follow orders. Any of you who know anyone who's been in the military service know how difficult that can be. But not following orders can mean the difference between life and death. One of the first things we have to learn in the service is how to follow orders. We need to listen and then respond. Joining God often requires us to make major changes in our lives. And how successful we are is dependent upon knowing God and knowing his instructions. Trusting what he tells us, not only in listening, but knowing that he will be with us to help us through whatever it is he's calling us to do. We have to trust. In the February issue of the Reader's Digest, there was a little story. I like the Reader's Digest. I have a short attention span. Some of you do too. I like Reader's Digest because it is short. This month's Reader's Digest has a little story about a man who was looking for a change in his life. A change. And he says this change was a vacation in the slums. He went to India, and there he met a person that he had heard about. Didn't know the man, but had heard about him. his life there with the poor in India. Met him at the plane, took him to the city, not to this comfortable hotel that he was expecting to go to, but to the slums. And he saw buildings, hundreds of them, made out of cardboard and tin and throwaway items. He saw the people in the streets, the dirt streets. And this fella he had just met asked him if he was hungry. Now, he just had flown by plane 30 hours to get to India. He not only was hungry, but also tired. So the guy said to him, "Take off your shoes." Took off his shoes. "Take off your socks." He took off his socks. "Take off your shirt." He took off his shirt. Now, how much faith would you have in a person that you just met, and he's asking you to take off your shoes and your socks and your shirt? But that's what he did. He trusted this man because he knew about this man. And then the man left. The fella is still hungry. Now he has no shoes and no socks and no shirt. And he's now wandering around looking for a place to eat. There are no restaurants in this slum. And he sees a flag. Now, some of you probably are going to watch some kind of a game today. But in this particular slum, there was a flag of one of the basketball teams, the American basketball team. So he went to that door, and there was no door. It was a curtain. He rapped on the side of the tin, and this fella came out, and fortunately he spoke a little English. They became friends for that day. He arranged for food. He showed him around the slums. And at the end of the day, the man almost forgot he was supposed to meet his guide, this guy who took his shoes and his socks and his shirt, at this particular location. So they rushed to that place, and the Indian guide looked at the man. The man was beaming. He had had a wonderful experience through living as if he belonged to that place. He not only trusted that guide who took his clothes, but trusted the man that he met, and he was a changed person. You know, all of us have experienced life. We've experienced learning things. In order to graduate from kindergarten to first grade, we needed to learn some basics, some social skills, how to interact with others. All our lives, we have been challenged to learn new information and learn to apply what we've learned. In many segments of society, we see people rebelling against doing what is right. Even within our own Christian churches, we find people insisting on doing their own thing and then trying to force the rest of us to follow their goofy ideas. And I know some churches have closed because they didn't properly answer today's question. Who do you say Jesus is? And I'm often amazed to hear some leaders of Christian organizations say they don't believe the Bible is the Word of God, and even publicly question that Jesus is the Christ. They consider themselves to be Christians, which is kind of silly, isn't it? Christians are simply followers of Jesus. They consider themselves to be Christians even as they preach belief and doubt. It's sad to see that influence that some of these leaders have had on other people. Being a Christian has never been easy. It certainly was not easy to walk with Jesus during that first century. It's not easy today. But it is easier to follow Jesus when we know him. It's easier to follow him if we trust him. It's easier to follow him when we follow his directions. Linda and I enjoy watching some of the cooking shows on TV. And I need to confess that Linda likes it better than I. But I thought the message today that Sandra offered was a good one, because watching those shows confirms the importance of following recipes. Can you imagine, as an example, Sandra, if you had allowed these kids to make a cake? Can you imagine what they might have forgot to put in? Can you imagine what they might have put in that didn't belong there? Can you imagine what a cake might look like if the baker didn't follow the recipe? Can you imagine a cake not baked, not put in the oven? Heat is necessary to properly bake a cake. And Christian growth is similar to baking a cake. We have a recipe book to follow. We know that we are only successful if we work with the other ingredients in the recipe, and we know that we will be tested under heat. But if we trust the recipe, have faith that it will be okay when we follow the instructions, things will be okay. Jesus came to show us the way. And even when we do not have all the answers, if we know the answer to the question, who do you say Jesus is? We will be okay. Who do you say Jesus is? Let us pray. Dear Father, help us to understand. Help us to know the answer to that question, and Father, help us to live with the strength that that will require. Help us, Father. Give us peace. Forgive us when we make a mistake. But continue, Father, to show us the way. And we pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Carlson. Dick, thank you. Friends, your assignment for this week is pretty simple. Read chapter 17 and 18 in Experiencing God. Pray about joining a growth group if you have not already. When our growth group leaders met 9 days ago for some training and sharing and fellowship time, a few of the statements they had about what their favorite parts of growth groups were, I'll share with you now. Names will be not admitted because they will know not to possibly, but one growth group's leader said their favorite thing about their growth groups was to watch people caring for each other. It's one thing to say you care, it's another thing to actually care. Another growth group's leader said, we bonded as a group. They wanted to spend time together. Growth groups, they're just groups of people who talk about the book more, so it's about how to live life as Christians, especially caring for each other. So if you haven't, check out a growth group, pray about it if you're so led. And if you're not led, maybe you aren't praying. Otherwise, would you pray with me and pray with me as we pray together? I encourage you to hold your hands up as we talk with God and close your eyes. Friends, let us pray. Lord God, loving Father, I love you. Lord, I want to be your disciple. So help me to deny myself. Strengthen me to take up my cross. Direct me in how to follow Jesus. I need to lose my life so that I might gain my life. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Friends, let's worship together as we sing together.
keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance